Chapter 6, the investor. This is my favorite. I love being the investor. It's probably my favorite part of being a leader. I might tend to do invest too much. I actually had a point where I was having a little bit too many meetings. I was like, "All right, I need to let people just go do their thing just because I enjoyed investing in them so much." But we got to do this. So, investors versus micromanagers. And this is a huge dichotomy. Jocko Willing talks about it, but basically coaching and teaching and investing your team is one side of it, and then coming in and helping them when they need it and kind of micromanaging. So you don't want to be a micromanager in general, but you do kind of need to do a little bit of both. But here we're talking about being an investor, right? Giving other people the investment and ownership they need to produce results independent of the leader. So they need to go out there, own their position, own the outcome, and go make it happen. And they don't always need to ask the leader for questions. Micromanagers are always jumping back in, taking control. No one has any confidence to get anything done because you're always jumping in to save them, right? Uh, Managing every detail in a way that creates dependence on the leader, which ultimately makes your job a lot harder and miserable as a manager slash leader. So understand that. So everyone, I think a lot of people know what you're micromanaging every little thing that they're doing. So it means you have to, part of this is what? Releasing control. You have to give up control. And again, it goes back to the underlying assumption that you have good, capable people and you have hired the right people. Got to give control up and let them do that. So what we're going to talk about is the three practices of the investor. So we're going to define ownership. They define ownership, they invest resources, and they hold people accountable. That number three, that one's huge. Talk about the diminisher approach and then how we will become investors of our people. So the three practices of an investor. You need to name the lead, give ownership for the end goal, and stretch the role. So name the lead. Give them 51% of the vote. What does that mean? If they are a lead manager or they are a cold caller, if they're a cold caller, they're responsible for getting leads. Come in there and help them with things, but give them 51% of the vote. Have their say be the end all be all. Now, if they're bought in and you've pitched the vision the right way, they're not going to go against what you say. They're going to want to follow your order, but just them knowing that they have 51% of the vote gives them so much more confidence, so much more conviction, and they're going to put so much more effort behind what they're doing because they know, hey, ultimately I have the say. But when you do that, they tend to gravitate to what you say anyways. But it's that idea that they do own that role helps them be more committed. Give them ownership for the end goal. Okay? In our business, and this comes from a book called Traction by Gino Wickman, every position should be responsible for a number. And that number contributes to the success of the company or the bottom line. So our cold callers, their number is 2. All they have to do, their whole position boils down to what number? 2. 2 leads. And they own that number. I can't do it for them. They got to do it. So they come in every day. They know that they need to get 2 leads. I don't care how they do it, as long as it's moral, ethical, and legal. Go get those 2 leads. Our lead managers, their number is 4. I need 4 appointments a day from them. As long as it's moral, ethical, and legal, go get it done. I'm giving them ownership of that role. They know they own that, and they know that that contributes to the bottom line of the company. So they're committed, they're convicted, and they're clear on what they're doing. The acquisition reps, their number is 2. 2 contracts a week. Listen, I'm going to give you all this stuff and I'm going to help you out. End of the day, you have 51% of the vote. As long as it's moral, legal, and ethical, go make it happen. 2 contracts a week. So that is how we're giving people ownership in our business, giving them a number and making things simple. Also stretch their role. Put them into a position that might be a little bit too big for them, right? A shoe size that's a little bit too big, let them grow into it. Maybe sometimes 2 sizes too big. Now, again, this is a dichotomy because I've done this with my team where I've given someone a role, it was a little bit too much for them to handle. I had to take it back. It was a few sizes too big. They weren't ready. That was irresponsible on my part. Lesson learned. Other positions, though, one of my cold callers actually ended up being a lead manager, then a senior lead manager, then a director of lead management. And every single time I gave her that role, she didn't think she could do it. But this is where you're getting that 110% from your people because you see their capabilities and you're putting them into positions that they don't feel like they're quite ready for yet, but you know that they are. It's just a little bit too big and they grow into it. And that's how you develop this place as a place to grow. This is how you develop, um, you know, a place where people say, yeah, I was giving more than I thought I even had. So you have to define ownership. Next is you want to invest resources. So you have to teach and coach. Okay? You have to teach and coach and let them go out. Sometimes they're going to make mistakes, but since they have ownership, you got to coach them up and let them go out and do things. Now, one thing I'm going to note is that you are still accountable for their actions. So one of the dichotomies from Jocko's book is empower others, but own it all. So empower others, teach them, coach them up, let them go do the thing. But at the end of the day, you are accountable. So if the sink is shipping and you need to jump in to save it, you got to do that. But as much as you can, you try to stay out and let them do it if they can accomplish the outcome. So teach and coach them. Have training sessions. Do call calibrations, role play if it's a sales role. Talk about how they can manage their time, use their calendar, how they can respond versus react to situations. You got to pour into these people. Invest in their personal development. It's not about professional development. It's about personal development, and that pours over into their professional life. There's a great quote here. You are teaching by helping your team solve real problems. Even if you know the solution, you don't offer it. If you do, you've lost the teaching moment. It has to be Socratic. You ask the question and tease out the answer. What does he mean it has to be Socratic? There's a concept called Socratic questioning. And that is basically in sales or wherever you want to use it, coaching, you're asking open-ended questions, what and how. You already know the answer, but you're asking questions to have other people come to the conclusion. Because when other people come to the realization themselves, they're much more convicted in their answer. So teach and coach and use Socratic questioning to help people come to solutions. Yes, this is a little bit more work, okay? It's not going to be as easy as just telling people, but their behavior is going to change. You're going to learn to be more patient, and they're going to get more value, and they're going to grow as a result. Number 2, provide backup. So as you send these people out into the trenches to go get it done, they're going to mess up. If you can provide some colleague, maybe a more experienced colleague or someone else for them to fall back on, it's going to make it easier and more comfortable for them to go learn from their mistakes. They might not want to come back to you because you're the boss, you're the head honcho, you're the owner, you're the whatever. They might not feel comfortable talking about their mistakes. So if you can give them someone like a colleague who has a little bit more experience that can help them, coach them through that, that's going to help them be accountable and learn and generate these rapid learning cycles for them. And then hold people accountable. So give it back. In the book, she talks about a desk. Basically, a desk. So say I'm standing on this side of the desk and the person is over there. The desk is tilted towards them. So they're going to come in asking you a bunch of questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? Da, 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 da. Okay? It's going to be easy to answer it all for them. But again, you need them to think through it. So people are always going to have problems, but it should always fall back on them to get it done. They have ownership of the outcome. You're going to help them by coaching them, helping them with strategy, insights, how are we going to get it done, but they are going to get it done. It's not your job to just get everything done. You're like the strategy. You are just making sure everyone is on track as a manager and as a leader, right? Making sure we're on the right path, make sure we don't fall off a cliff, right? But let's make sure we're on the path. You're the one responsible for getting it done, not me. I'm here to help you. So you got to give it back to them. People are coming to you with problems, okay, let's talk through them. Let's figure out the best plan of action. Back onto you. You got to get it done. That's why you're here. You own the outcome. Expect complete work. Oh, this is huge. This is huge. The 1-3-1 rule, which is not from this book, it's from Buy Back Your Time. Great concept, though. The 1-3-1 rule is basically people are going to come to you all the time with problems. I get this problem. I get that problem. Okay, what have you done to figure it out? A lot of times they haven't done anything. They are just naturally going to you because it's almost a lazy response. Well, let me just ask Jake. He always knows the answer. Instead of taking 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes to think about it and figure out what solutions might we have. Everyone on your team is very capable and intelligent. I can assure you that in 90% of the time, 95% of the time, if they take 5 minutes to think about the problem, they can probably come up with a solution that is the right solution. And then you're not getting bogged down, wasting your mental energy dealing with all these minor things. So we have implemented what we call the 1-3-1 rule from Dan Martell. They need to identify the one problem. If they're coming to you, they need to identify the one problem, present 3 potential outcomes or solutions to that problem, and then give their suggestion on the best best option of those three. And that makes them sit back and think about things. And a lot of times they're going to solve it on their own. And if not, at least they've thought about it. It develops their critical thinking skills. They come back to you. And most of the time, their answer is going to be the answer you would pick anyways. They're just, again, afraid to make mistakes. So expect complete work. Don't just, people are coming to you with problems. Make sure they think through these problems. Respect natural consequences. This is huge. As long as it's not catastrophic, let them make mistakes in the field. It's part of it. It's part of it. Yeah, they're going to drop some leads. They're not going to close some deals. They're going to mess some things up. That's how people learn. You got to make a space that's safe for it. And they're never going to learn like they do in real time. There's nothing like a mistake or something that you're like, oh shit, I can't believe I did that. That just sears it into your brain to never do it again. I can tell you something all day long. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But until you actually mess it up and you feel the consequences of that, it doesn't really click in your brain. So as long as it's not catastrophic, let nature be the teacher. So the diminisher, all they want to do is just maintain ownership of everything. They're going to jump in and out and just always be taking things back. Okay. So they're maintaining ownership of the role. Maybe like they're a sales manager and they're just maintaining ownership of the closing. Every single time the sales rep struggles, boom, they're instantly jumping in and closing it instead of letting the person learn, jumping in and out. Da, 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 da. And you have no freedom as a leader then, because you are just freaking the whole organization is bottlenecked by your skill and your ability, which is limiting. And you're always taking things back. You're always got too much on your plate because you haven't invested in your people to go out and be capable on their own. So becoming an investor, give 51% of the vote. Like I said, give them 51%. The irony in this is that they're going to end up listening to what you have to say anyways, but just the fact they know that they have 51% makes them feel important, makes them feel heard, and makes them going to be much more convicted in what they decide. Let nature take its course, okay? As long as it's not catastrophic. Ask for the FIX. That's my 131 rule. But people come to you with problems. Hey, I don't want the problem. I want the solution. Okay? Here's the problem. What solutions have you thought about? What are potential options here? Make sure you demand those things. And then give it back. People come to you with problems and they need help. Great. Let's strategize. Let's come up with a plan. But ultimately, it's back on you to make it happen. Unexpected findings. So multipliers do get involved in the details, but they keep the ownership with other people. Again, they're empowering others to make decisions, but they are accountable for all those decisions. And that's one of the things about being a leader. It's like, yeah, you can't do it all on your own. You got to push people to go do it. And when they mess up, who's responsible for it? You are. It's part of being a leader. Fun fact, or quick fact, multipliers are rated 42% higher at delivering world-class results than their diminisher counterparts. I don't know how I don't know what results are, but 42% higher overall. Pretty significant. So in summary, micromanagers versus investors. Micromanagers are managing every detail of the work to ensure it's completed the way they would do it. What they get is people who wait to be told what to do, people who hold back because they expect to be interrupted and told what to do instead, free riders who wait for the boss to swoop in and save them. Sounds like a whole lot of stress and anxiety for the leader and a very inefficient organization. We're on the investor side, and the investor side isn't as sexy because it takes time to develop people. You got to be patient. And that's why rate of learning is such an important factor when you're developing people. So what they do, they give other people the ownership for results and invest in their success. What they get is people who take initiative and anticipate challenges, people who are fully focused on achieving results, and people who can get ahead of the boss in solving problems.